Well, hello everyone. Welcome to SQL Querious. This tutorial is a series of short videos that cover SQL challenge puzzles and break down the steps of forming a great query. If you are new to SQL, it's a database language that's simple to learn but difficult to master. If you think you might be interested in SQL but aren't quite sure, then SQL Querious may be a good fit for you. For today's challenge, we're going to be working with the database admin tool called Postgres. This is a free application that runs off of your computer, but through your browser. Here I have a table called employees with over 1,000 rows of entries, and we have all sorts of information, including the first name, last name, email, hire date, so on and so forth. And so for this challenge, what I'd like to do is to form a query that returns only a single column of every employee's email, but without the name or the @ symbol or the dot or anything after the dot. And so if I have someone at gmail.com, it should return only Gmail. And I'd like this to be returned in a column with every employee on the roster. And so now would be a great time to pause the video and think through how you might approach this, and we'll come back in a moment and give you a hint. Okay, hopefully you've had a minute to tinker with that. And so now for the hint. For this particular query, we're going to need to use a combination of 3 commands. We're going to need the substring, we're going to need to use the position, and we're going to need to use the length. And so we'll give you the moment to pause the video one more time to see if you can figure this out. And hopefully you've had a moment to sort of think through that. So let's go ahead and break this problem down. So what we're really looking at is we're looking at a combination of splices. We need to be able to splice away the person's name as well as the @ symbol, and we're going to need to figure out a way to splice away the dot and everything after the dot. And so how are we going to do this? And so first let's write a query that splices away the person's name and the @ symbol. And so if we select position of the @ symbol in email from employees, what that gives us is the integer location of the @ symbol in everyone's email. And so now let's combine that with the substring and the substring accepts 1 or 2 arguments. And so the substring is going to accept either the, of course you have to pass through the column that you're dealing with, but it's going to accept the position that it should start the substring at, and an optional second argument, which would be how many characters in it's going to splice. Absent the second argument, it's only going to begin at the first argument's location and return the rest of the entire string. And so if we do a substring and we pass through the email column and tell it to start at the position of the @ symbol in the email column, what that will return, if I remember my parenthesis, is going to be a column of everyone's email without the name. But now we still have this @ symbol lingering here, so we need to add 1 to the position. We're going to take the position of the @ symbol plus 1 because we don't want the @ symbol either. And so that takes care of splicing away everyone's name and the @ symbol. So now we're left with worrying about the dot and everything after the dot. And so what if we did a substring of the position of the dot? And we can take away that plus 1. All right, so now what we're left with is the dot and everything after the dot, but nothing before that. So now what we're really looking at is trying to figure out how to get everything in between those two. And so what we need to do is we need to write a substring of everything before the @ inclusively until everything after the dot inclusively. And so what would this look like? So what we need to do is we need to have some embedded queries. If we do a select substring of the email, starting with the position of the @ symbol in email, plus 1 as our starting point. And then we need to take the length of the entire email. We're going to subtract out 2 items from that length, and that's going to be subtracting out the first part that we're splicing out and the last part that we're splicing out. And whatever remainder we have is how many characters we need to splice forward. And so that might look something like calling the length of the email minus the position of the @ symbol in email plus the length of a substring of email starting at the position of the dot in email from employees. And so if we've done this correctly, we should run this, and it looks like it worked. So we have here only the domain of everybody's email. All right, and just to sort of prove this to you, if we had Dion, Google, HHS, A8, and Technorati, let's go ahead and do a select email from employees. And so what this should return is the entire one, but we can check our work to see if we had exactly Dion, Google, HHS, A8, and Technorati. And given everyone's full email, that would be Dion, Google, HHS, A8, Technorati. And so it looked like we were successful in writing this query. And so you can see how interesting it is to try to master the difficulty of embedded queries and combined queries to try to get exactly what you're looking for out of that column. And so I would call this puzzle busted. So thank you everyone for watching. I look forward to seeing everyone back again in the next video, and have a wonderful night.